We are live on the Uncensored Entrepreneurs, as always, bringing it to you real, raw, and unplugged. And today we're going to be talking about distractions and working from home. There we go. And for those that missed the intro, again, we're talking about distractions and working from home. I think that's something that not only entrepreneurs and coaches can relate to, but in these last few years, like how many people in the corporate world have been transitioned into a workplace from home, right? There's so many distractions. So we're going to be able to talk about this. And I don't know about, each one of you, but in one form or another, even when I had a remote office somewhere else, I've been working from home for many, many years. And so, it's a collective of experiences, distractions, obstacles, and all the things that we've faced. So let's kind of dive into it today. By the way, you'll see we're missing someone from our panel. Christina, where's Tina at?
You're asking me?
I want to put you on the spot.
Tina is she's getting her life organized with Paco, and she's got some heavy lifting to do today, so she couldn't be here.
She is. We were going to go live, and obviously, as always, we miss you, Tina. But we were going to go live with both of them, right? With her and Tony. However, they're sweaty. They're moving furniture. They're doing all kinds of things. I think it would have been entertaining. I'm pretty sure our audience would have enjoyed it as well. I don't think Tina was ready for the movie screen at the time. So
but
anyway,
also, let's do a shameless plug. So I ordered Christina's books. I'm sorry, Tina's
books. Yep, Tina's books. Okay, all right.
Okay, so she has this book, Beyond Gratitude. Okay, because we're always recommending books for you guys, so definitely check this out on Amazon, which is amazing. I'm diving in this week. I just got it this week. But I never hear her talk about this, the gratitude journal, too much, right?
Man,
and I'm totally going to get this. And it is so cool because she has you journal every single day. You probably can't see that. In the morning, what are you grateful for? Just that, even writing that down just helps you set yourself up for the day. We're talking about working from home. And so putting that on your to-do list. She has a scripture at the top, like a new scripture to help you reflect on every day, which I think is super, super cool. And then at bedtime, what are you grateful for? So I really, really love this journal. And look how thick it is. Like, I was expecting to get like a really thin journal, but you have prompts for every day of the year. So guys, check it out.
Would you ever expect scarcity from Tina? I mean, no. She's all over the top. Come on. So she delivered big on that. Absolutely. And by the way, gratitude, right? That's one of the key components of what we're going to be talking about in working from home with all these distractions and all the things that are happening in our lives. Like sometimes, oh man, I tell you, I could talk about this for hours. Just being able to sit in a little bit of silence. Sometimes you close the laptop or whatever it is you're doing. You do not take client calls for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and you just reflect on these things, right? You reflect on the things you're grateful for. You kind of recenter yourself. I don't know about each of you. Do you find that you just need that little space once in a while throughout the day because it gets crazy, right?
Yeah, I am somebody that takes naps when I'm tired. Right?
That's still a form of meditation.
Right. And and I used to feel really guilty about that. Like as a mom, I was like, I should be doing something. I should be doing that. By the way, that is my mom. My mom
Oh,
is our
awesome.
distraction. Well, the
Welcome.
only way that you're a distraction is if I'm procrastinating and I'm like, I should call my mom instead of doing what I really don't want to do right now.
Where's
So you're
mom at? Is mom still up north, or where is she?
yeah, she's in Pell River. She's in my hometown.
Okay.
So,
All right.
we're looking forward to a visit very, very soon, in the
Awesome.
next week or so. But she's always been so supportive of my business, and whenever I'm having a bad day or whatever, I'll call her. But the challenge comes, in finding that space for yourself when you work from home. Right?
So
You don't
true.
get the quiet car ride to and from work. Okay. You don't get like, okay, I get to listen to my radio station or my podcast. You don't get that, right? And
Right.
sometimes when you've got young kids, your morning, like I think I've said this before, but like the people that get up and like the people that have no kids or the single people, the single folks out there that are still running the world, like those people get up and they're like, yeah, so my 3-hour morning routine with meditation and this and that. I'm like, what? My kid is like, Mom, I need food. Like, get up. And I'm like, you're 7, get your own food. Like, are you serious? So it's so interesting when we talk about working from home. And I would love your perspective too, because I think you guys have both been through this. But I was a hairstylist and had my salon in the house. But like when I started my own company and my own business working online and doing that, I started when I was technically on maternity leave. So like I had the space and time, really. That sounds crazy when it comes out of my mouth because I started a business 3 weeks after having Izzy, but I'm just like, I had the space and time while she slept and fed and like, that was it. Right. Like I had the space and time to do it then. But for those of you guys that have gone through like raising your kids through all the different stages, right? Like that's going to be super challenging because it changes from they need you to make snacks to they need you to drive them everywhere to, oh my God, when are they coming home tonight?
Oh, right? so true. Star, I'll let you go first, but absolutely I have a lot of input
I
on
really
this.
love that story. So when I became an entrepreneur, you guys know that I opened up brick and mortar first. I actually wasn't in the online space. So the first year, same thing, Christina, when I had my baby is when I started like deciding that I wanted to start. Well, I already knew I wanted to start a business, but I started the planning process of developing this business. So by the time he turned 1, that's when I resigned from corporate America and scary, walked away from that 6-figure job. And he was what I called a hip baby. So he was on my hip with me as I'm like going through all these things, like looking at locations and trying to figure out where I was going to, run my business, interviewing people, hiring people. And I was thinking like, I want to be able to be with my kid and have my kid and not like have to worry about, who's keeping him and looking after him. But that didn't really work out because I have to work on the business. So when he turned 2, I actually did have to put him in daycare because it was like he started, he's running around and doing all these things, and it's hard to chase behind a 2-year-old. So I know a lot of people in the online space who work from home, they either have to hire a nanny or put their child in childcare. And like I said, I had to physically go to locations. So I didn't have the option of like having somebody in the home, right? Because I was back and forth. I feel like I'm rambling.
No. Keep going. Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, I was able to put him in childcare, and what did it for me is like he had a little car in the store, like a little toy, and he pushed it into one of my employees, and they fell on the ground. And I was like, oh my God, that's like a lawsuit waiting to happen. So then I immediately put him into childcare the next week. I was like, or pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
But I do love working from home, and I actually developed that business in a way where I put myself out of even being in the physical locations as much. So it's really like, how do you have that time freedom to be able to work from home? Or for those of you who are online, some may not be. I had cameras in the store so I could tune in on cameras. I had a system where my staff would call me on my mobile phone if they had questions. So I can still see everything that's happening. And then I kind of fully transitioned to being more at home than in the locations. But now I work from home. And so, yeah, there are tons of distractions, kids being one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just touch base briefly on the kid part, but you're right. There are a ton of distractions that we'll talk about. And by the way, for those that are just tuning in or anyone that kind of pops in, even on the replay, like throw in the comments some of the things that you've encountered in regards to just distractions that you have in working from home, even if it's, whether it's full-time or part-time. And I'll tell you, so going back with the kids thing, those that know me, I'm a very hands-on father. It's just something that I've enjoyed at this stage in my life over these last few years. And so I'm the one that's like scrambling in the morning, making, lunches, breakfast, whatever it may be, throwing things together, getting those backpacks out the door, dropping kids off. And then I come back and I start my day. So you're right, Christina. By no means am I the one that, I used to have this thing, I was part of the 5 a.m. club, and
Yeah. What?
I no longer wake up with a cucumber mask, right? With doing my mantras and relaxing. It's like go time. We wake up and we're throwing things around, and it's like bread and knives are just flying, right? So with that being said, I mean, that is a balance. And what happens a lot of times is you have all these amazing like intentions as an entrepreneur of what your day is going to look like. You're already framing this day, the day before, if not days before. But what happens is all of a sudden you come into that element, you've got a perfect plan, and that plan falls apart fast, right? It's either this kid, that kid, something happens, a change in the school. I've had everything from the daycare's power going out, and then them telling you, an hour after I'm home, like you have to come pick up your kid, or just anything of that nature, right? Or schools just juggling that schedule where something comes up, or a kid gets sick. We could talk about this forever for those that have kids. Like a kid gets sick, everything in your schedule immediately changes, unless like you're fortunate enough to have a full-time nanny or somebody that actually handles all that for you. I am the full-time nanny.
It's not a bad plan. It's not a bad plan.
Right?
And here's the cruel joke of it all. And Star, I don't know if you went through this, but I definitely did. The cruel joke of it all is like, okay, I'm going to work from home so I can be there for my kids. And then they get to be a certain age, and they like Izzy wanted to go to the park every single day. And I'm like, what do you want to do at the park? She's like, see other kids. Like she wanted to play with other kids. She didn't want to be at home with me. Right. And so there's like this heartbreaking moment where you realize your kid is going to be better off at daycare with group or at home with a nanny, right? You realize that there's like this turning point. And then there's this mom guilt or dad guilt that you also get because you're putting them in daycare. And you're like, but I work from home and this is such a charade, or charade, or however you say it, right? Like this is so, I'm very aware that I'm the Canadian on this, right? Like I'm very aware that I'm the Canadian on the show. So I'm just like, oh my God, like this is so crazy. And so then you also wrestle with that feeling on top of working from home. And there's like this guilt around you that when they come to see you, and I don't know if you guys are like this, I'm totally like this, that like I'll work and work and work. But if she comes to see me and she knows, like if she says, Mom, put your phone down, or Mom, I need you to see this, or Mom, there's certain things, right? It's not, Mom, can you get me a snack?
Right.
Okay. It's like, Mom, I need you for something. I will drop everything as long as I'm not live on, and we've already talked about when we go live, what happens. Right. Okay. But like, because you have to set the stage and you also have to involve them in your business. That's a huge piece of it too. And being part of the process.
Yeah. Educating them like on that. I know Star, you'll have some input because you've talked about that before. I'll just add in one little thing too. I realized that like in the beginning, I was all about perfection. Right. But just that's just kind of a natural thing where it's all about things have to look and feel the right way. And now I've also kind of just embraced the fact that, there's this real raw, platform to where I am a father. I mean, these are the things that make up who I am. So if a kid is homesick and I'm with a client and she comes over and wants to climb up in my lap, I'll put her there sometimes. And I'm like, this is my daughter, say hi. And I'll continue. Right now, obviously we try to, to steer those if we have the ability to close out kind of that end of the world. But at the same time, I think that when you are real, people actually see that, right? When you're authentic, they understand and they can relate. And most, not all, but most, they will overlook the perfection and they'll actually be able to actually connect with you on that level. Cause they're like, yeah, okay. Wow. You mean that you're doing that. So it means that I can actually, have a drink of water, or I can continue to eat my sandwich while I'm on this coaching call. Like those are just real things, right?
Yeah. And I think that you just have to, you learn to roll with it. You learn that this is, if you're going to adapt to home business life, I love what Laura said, by the way. She's a single mom of twins and her daughter has autism, and she dealt with both guilts, which we totally can relate to, right? Mm-hmm. She's an entrepreneur at heart and she teaches her kids about entrepreneurship, and you're growing together as a family. You're absolutely right. Family sticks together. When you are intentional about that, then it changes how things work. It's not Mom's ignoring me, she's working. It's we're building this together so we can live this life together. It's a different thing. And I think that a lot of the time working from home, like I would love to hear what you guys think, like what your biggest obstacle is from working at home. But mine is procrastination. Like 100%, I am my own worst enemy. That I have like sticky notes on the fridge that like have my goals on them, because when I get like bored or I'm avoiding doing something, I go to the fridge. Like, I don't know if that's your habit, but that's my habit.
I'm an eater when I'm worrying, overwhelmed, or bored, right? It's just what it is.
Yeah. So like, what do you guys struggle with? Like, what is your biggest thing that you struggle with working from home? Like, what's your biggest distraction?
For me, it's just the internet, right? So we're working online and we're trying to get our work done. And then all of a sudden a client messages you. You start to respond to that client, you're supporting them. Another client comes through, a lead comes through, and then you're like, what was I here to do? That's my struggle, like every day.
and Star, that's just the business stuff that you're talking about. What about you mean I can buy a car on Temu for $10? Like what? Like but it's those things, right? It's all those things that continue to pop up. That is like, technology is our friend. It's our worst enemy as well. Since you're on that point, so glad you brought this up. I will mention some of the things to combat these obstacles and distractions from working from home. One of mine, and I'm starting to use it all the time now. If I don't know if you're on Macs or if you're on PCs, they may both have this feature, but with my Mac, they have the focus feature. Are you familiar with that? So I don't know if either one of you use this.
I don't use it. I probably should.
But they have built-in ones, right? So I just click it briefly, and it says "Do not disturb" for an hour. It not only silences my computer, but it silences my phone. Everything's connected, and I can put custom ones in there. And I just put a custom one in there that said that every single Thursday, right from 12:30 until 2:30, for those 2 hours, complete focus. And it's because we're preparing for the show, we're wrapping up some client calls, whatever it may be. And I don't want those things popping up, right? I don't want, because that's what I used to do before. And when I say before, I'm talking only 2 months ago, to where I would be sitting here on a call like this, or I'd be working with a client. You're so intent, you're so focused, you're listening, because that's what we have to do in most of our work, be a good listener. And all of a sudden a text pops up, or a message pops up, or another appointment pops up, or a scheduler pops up, any of those things. And those are all major distractions, I think, whether you're working from home or working anywhere. But use those focus functions, Google them if you're not aware with what they are.
Yeah, every time we go live, I hit that focus feature for an hour. But I like that you said custom, because if we go over the hour, we start a couple minutes late. At the end of the show, you'll start hearing like notifications, and I'm like, oops, and then I'll hit focus again. So thanks for sharing that, Robert.
Yeah, put them in there. They're definitely good. And you can even on the custom ones, you can allow whoever you want to allow too. So like for emergencies, if you want to put your spouse or whomever it may be, that would be alerting you, or the daycare. So you can put those on there as well.
Oh, that's helpful. I didn't know that. I just turn all my notifications off and pretend people don't exist.
Like for me, like getting out of the house is important. Even if it's just for me to go to Starbucks or maybe a Target run, just being at home all day, every day is kind of like overwhelming, even though we're working from home. I'm grateful for the opportunity, but I find sometimes that I'm not focused because I'm like, I need a change of environment.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what I find? So my dog isn't here right now, but I find that he's a very good reminder of like, you need to get up and walk around, because every time he's got to go out, he comes, and if I'm working, he just comes and bumps my arm until I get up and do something. He won't leave me alone. And so it's
the worst kid of all, right? So
again, a distraction. He's a massive distraction, but he gets me up every like hour and a half when he gets bored, or 2 hours. And then I get up, go for a little walk, and then come back and get set again. And so I've actually found that super helpful. And same when Izzy, when Izzy's at home and she's not at school, if she comes and says, hey, will you color with me? She wants me to color with her for 20 minutes, and then she's on to something else. So yeah, I'll drop everything. I'll come color with you for 20 minutes. And then when you're on to the next thing, I'll go back to what I was doing. But again, you learn to work in segments, and you also learn to be extremely intentional about the activities that you do every day, because there's no time to waste. And like the biggest like the hardest thing for me in the last 6 months, man, when Matt Rife became super famous on Facebook and his like comedy things would come up and like his reels would come up while I'm like trying to do stuff. I'm like, oh, but that's so funny. Like, and I would get caught up watching it because I wanted to laugh. Like the world seems to be heavy. We're going through tons of challenges in the economy. And I just like, I wanted to choose to laugh. And then I was like, okay, now you're just like binge watching this.
Yeah.
So,
But see,
you know?
yeah, but here's the interesting thing, like, and like some of those things are great. They actually help you kind of break up the monotony when you're stuck in a rut, whatever it may be. But schedule those things, right? And so we'll be talking a lot about scheduling. I know, Star, you're like the super scheduler. I'm still learning from you because I sometimes my day starts at different times and ends at different times, and I'm not as ritual, but I'm becoming a little bit more organized in that. And I have found that you have to put those little disruptors in there. Sometimes just plug in that 30 minutes in between where there'd be a client call or whatever coming into your calendar, and just plug it in. Exactly what you said, Christina. Watch a comedy, listen to one of your favorite podcasts that makes you laugh or that you're engaged with. And so those things, though, have to be intentional. Otherwise, you're going to have these major arguments or indifferences with your loved ones. And one of the things that Kelly and I, if she's tuning in, will absolutely, she'll testify to, is that when I transitioned from the corporate world into working from home, my biggest argument was always this: in that environment, you get 8, 9, 10 hours. That's your work day. From home, even if I'm physically sitting here at the computer or whatever my intentions are, I'm not getting a full 8, 9, 10 hours in because of all of these shifts, all of these distractions, whatever it may be. Could be something as simple as the kids forgot they were supposed to bring something to school or whatever, right? Because when you're working from home, you'll tend to be the catch-all. Please jump in on this one. You'll be the catch-all on all these little variables along the way.
I was talking to a client about a year ago. Her family felt that because she was working from home and at home, she was the go-to for everything. Okay, can you take mom to the doctor? Can you do this? Can you do that? And so everybody, attacked her for that. Not attacked her, but they utilized her to help the family out with different things. For me, it's like, I'm just not answering my phone. When I'm done working, I will get back to you. Because I know, I'm so fortunate. I have an amazing mother-in-law. She likes to call and talk to me. But I know those conversations are going to go for a long time. She likes to chat. Sometimes I can't take her calls when I know that, I have a lot of work that I want to work on today. But one thing about it is, Robert, I really don't work like an 8 or 9 hour shift. And I love that. If I was in corporate, I would, right?
Yeah.
So I like to have that flexibility. But last night, my husband took us to dinner. That was so amazing, right? We got a little outing. But after that, and we went kind of early. So after that, he left. And so a client had messaged me and she was stuck on something and it was tech related, which I kind of like playing around with stuff. So I was like, I'll just hop on. It was late. I just hopped on and I helped her out and we stayed on for like an hour. I didn't plan to do that. It wasn't in my schedule, but that flexibility of being able to work from home, and I didn't mind doing it at the time, I'm able to do those things.
Awesome.
Yeah,
And that's true. That is true.
It gives you that freedom to pick those hours, right? Like I would much rather work a few hours in the morning and then spend from 2:30 on with my kiddo, and then work when she goes to bed for an hour and a half, like consecutively together. And I find that when you batch your work, you can get so much more done because you don't like get tired of the lack of focus. But I remember when I first got into business and was first working from home, and I was on my phone all the time. Like I was buried in my phone. And I have to tell you, there were arguments between my husband and I when he was just like, he'd come in and talk to me and I just like had tunnel vision and I'm just like not listening at all, right? Like not even a little bit. And so he'd like tell me important things and like 2 days later say it again. I'm like, what? He's like, I told you a couple of days ago. So when we realized that this lack of communication was happening and that, some habits needed to be changed, like, no phones at dinner, no phones when we're having our time together. And then the other piece was, I don't know if you've ever worked in a restaurant, but if you have worked in a restaurant and you've run food, a lot of the times when you go into the kitchen, the chefs are busy, right? And the sous chefs are busy. So a lot of the times you say, may I speak? right? When you address the kitchen staff, if you're a server. So may I speak? Well, both my husband and I are from a hospitality background. And so now if I'm on my phone and he's got something to tell me and it's really important, he'll go, "Hey, Christina." I'm like, "Yeah," because he obviously knows I'm not paying attention, even though I've said yes. And he's like, "May I speak?" And I'll either say, "Yes, you can speak right now," or "Give me a minute," or "Give me 5, right? And if it's 5, go write it down because I don't want you to forget. And so that's how, same thing with him. If he's in the middle of something, "Hey, honey, may I speak?" Right.
That's
And it's
good.
just this like passage, this like writing passage that we're like, okay, now we're listening and we're present.
That is so good. And I will say, as a tip, that may work for Christina. Just qualify that with your spouse first before you try it. I think that
it's an agreed upon thing.
if you don't already have that in place and you look at them and you say, "May I speak?" I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a different response from Kelly that first go around. But that is so true. And you know what? That's the other thing. As an entrepreneur, just in general, working from home or not, this is our office. Our office becomes the laptop, right? The screen that we're looking at now. It becomes this. Like this becomes an extension actually of our office. So what happens is you're absolutely right. So often we're sitting there and I'm like replying back to somebody, or there was like a thought that I forgot to answer, earlier, or an email that I forgot to send. And so those in themselves can be distractions to the people that matter most, right? Everything that we're doing, it's really for them as well, and for our future. However, be intentional, be present, and set those boundaries. I love that, Christina. Like just set those boundaries, whatever it is that works for you, to where you're in that communication and you're like, "Hey, I'm just finishing something really quick. Hold that thought," or
write it down, whatever
it may be. You mentioned, and I don't want to leave this without going unannounced. You talked about putting your phones down during certain times.
Yeah.
Huge. Star, I know you've talked about this a lot too. Kelly and I try. But we do forget from time to time, right? She runs a business as well. She's in the corporate world, and she runs a business from home in the evenings. And so, just that there needs to be that time where you're like, okay, we're sitting down for dinner and these phones are going somewhere else, because otherwise the distractions are real.
Well, and think about the habits that you want your kids to have, right? Like maybe I'm old school, but I want family dinner to be family dinner. And like we sit around and we talk about our day and we talk about what's important, right? And so if we bring our phones and like this, I don't know if you've ever seen the speech by Simon Sinek where he's like doing a TED talk or something and he's holding his phone. And he's like, "How important do you feel if I'm up here holding my phone? How important do your guests feel if you go out for dinner and your phone is on the table?" Right? How important does my family feel if in the middle of their talking, I'm like checking text messages and responding? Because even though it's innately in me to be an entrepreneur and help people all the time, 24/7, like I'm like you, Star, like I'll jump on if I'm available and awake at 10 p.m. and I can help, I'm going to help. I'm going to help every way that I can. You can't turn that off, but you have to be intentional with your family and really pick up good habits and set higher standards, right? Because if our kids are constantly on their iPads or on their phones at dinner, it's disrespectful to everybody, right? And also, what are you teaching them? When we go out for dinner, when we talk, you can bring your iPad and just be distracted and not be part of the conversation. No, I want you to be part of the conversation. I want you to contribute. We enjoy you. So you just have to start looking at life and I don't know, I look at it as a way that I can organize my life and my business and work it synergistically together.
Yeah, that's so true. And it takes time. This is, by the way, none of this happens overnight. If you think you're going to come up with a perfect plan, it does not happen. You have to tweak things, you have to adjust, you have to pivot along the way. And again, I'm finding that with all good intentions, it has to be scheduled. So put those little blocks, whatever it may be, even if it's playtime, put those things in a calendar, because here's the other thing too, right? We rely on automation to set up our schedule, right? I have 3 different calendars going out based on, what funnel or what products they are. And when those come in, they're automatically scheduling my day for me. And sometimes I don't even know what that day is going to look like. And so it can be very full. I think, Star, I said to you when you first came on today that today's one of those days where your schedule's like line on line. You know what I mean? Like where you're getting off a call and you're telling somebody, "Hey, I'm just getting off a call. I'll be joining you in 2 minutes." And then other days you've got these gaps. So I'm becoming a little bit more intentional as well, and just blocking out that time, blocking out that creative space, whatever time it may be. And maybe it is activities from home, whatever it may be. Maybe it is chores, throwing in a load of laundry, whatever that is. Block that time out so that you don't feel like it's a major distraction in your life.
Exactly. You guys know I love time blocking. So
You are. I always point to you because I'm like, you're like Mrs. Time Block, right?
yeah,
So,
it's like you can't call after this time, or you can't book a call at this time. But I love that you brought up automation, Robert. You and I, we love that type of work, right? So every day I do have to check my calendar at night. I'm like, oh, what does my schedule look like for tomorrow? Certain things, like for example, this show that we do, I know that we're going to do this every Thursday. You guys know I haven't missed a day.
Oh, we noticed.
yeah.
I'm sorry, that was a joke, but yeah. So there's certain things that I know are happening, but you're right, Robert. Like our calendars, like people book calls with us, our clients, or leads, and things of that nature. Or maybe we're doing a summit or something that we normally don't do. So every morning, I'm also again checking my calendar. Okay, what does my day look like? Because if not, like I may actually think like, oh, I'm only doing this, and overlook something. So I do have to double check that and make sure that everything is going to run smoothly. But it's interesting for some of you guys who are like new to working from home. Starting coaching was a new venture for me. So my family wasn't used to the certain types of activities that I was doing at home, meaning that I'm in my office. Because previously, I'd be moving around more. I could be talking to my employee and just like doing whatever I'm doing or driving. So my son started to like say, oh, mom, you're always online, or you're always live, and like trying to say stuff to their dad. And I felt like they were trying to create like, I don't want to be negative, but just start problems. And so I kind of had to like check everybody in the household. Like, this is a business that I'm working on. And yes, it is going to require that there are times where you can't just run into my office and ask me a question because I'm supporting a client. And I mean, I've trained them pretty much when that door is closed or you see that I'm talking, that means you cannot come in here and interact. Unless it's an emergency, then you can say something. And the boys are getting older now, but they still did, when I started 3 years ago, they kind of had to get adjusted to it. So just kind of talk to your family and let them know that this is your schedule. You can't take people to the doctor. You can't go grocery shopping for people at this time. And another thing too, with these distractions, I like to outsource as much as possible. So maybe you're going to use certain tools to have your groceries delivered to your home instead of you going out to do that, because that time could be spent on you actually making money, supporting your clients, doing things that you love. Maybe you're going to have a housekeeper come in and help clean the home, once a week or every other week, or even once a month for deep cleaning or whatever you need to do.
Right.
These are things that you should also consider, allocating resources towards, because it is going to help you to grow your business and help you with some of the distractions of the things that you really don't have time to be focusing on around the household.
So true. Let's talk about breaking down those metrics even deeper. So we keep talking about time blocking and how we should schedule these things out. For those that are actually working from home, one of the things I know that I'm developing, even with my own coach, right, or coaches, people that I actually learn from, and some mentors, is that, is really drilling down even the finer detail of what those time blocks look like. Meaning that, and I'll just use this as an example. If kind of the heart of your business is twofold. One, entertaining and looking for new clients, and two, actually working with the ones that you have and creating and over delivering amazing products, right, for them, or results for them. So if those are the two major things, then I really need to be intentional daily in those activities. And so, even drilling down the fine tune, details of, I'm going to be on the phone, or I'm going to be entertaining and prospecting from this time to this time every day. And I'm going to work on the creative pieces, and marketing, during this time, or working with clients during. Those are so important, because I know that as I've developed businesses, I just want to do it all, right? I just want as much as I can. And so if you leave those time blocks too broad, oh my gosh, you'll become so overwhelmed that you'll find that you're just buried, and then you don't have time to do the things that matter.
Yeah, I agree. I think that a lot of the times we can, especially working at home, there's like this guilt between family and business. And if we don't block out the time, we'll take it up with something else. Like that's the truth, right? We'll do something else. There's always something to do. There's always another thing on the list, right? And making your business a priority, if you are somebody that works from home, is an absolute necessity. Like it's one of the first things I bring people through. I'm like, how much time do you have and where are we scheduling it in your day? You know, and I know that it can be really difficult, especially if you're not used to being in that kind of environment. Because the other thing that I wanted to bring up is like when you go to work with a whole bunch of other people around, you have people that are holding you accountable every day, people that are counting on you to do something, people that are like, I mean, even if you were just sitting there scrolling through your phone, like, could you imagine if I worked at a salon and everybody else is taking clients and I just like for 8 hours sat and scrolled on my phone and had no clients and like wasn't doing anything to go out and get them or network or whatever, right? And so you have this different sense of accountability that you don't get when you're at home. So that's why I also think to overcome those distractions, having accountability partners, having mentorship, you know, having a mastermind that you commit to so that you commit to moving forward too. Because if you don't have anybody telling you what to do, a lot of us are in a position that we don't really have to do anymore, right? Like we could kind of get away with a few years of like dogging it a bit if we didn't care so much about the bottom line and helping people get results. And so often I will pay people a significant amount of money to make me do the things I don't want to do, that I'm constantly procrastinating, or the skills that I'm just like, oh, I'm not that great at that. And then I get them to hold me accountable to becoming great, to mastering that skill. And I don't know, maybe you guys operate in a different way, but I think that is like a necessity for me if I'm going to keep on track working from home by myself here, right?
Both of you guys mentioned mentorship just now, and it's so funny, Robert, because I was doing the same thing yesterday in a coaching program where we actually created an SOP for our workday. And I actually have something similar. For example, I have like a little spreadsheet for an appointment setter, right? Or if you're going to be working the DMs, you're going to do this first, these basic steps. And I teach my clients the same strategy. But what I liked about creating the SOP version of that is like any links that you need to access, put on that SOP. Any, you know, whether it's a Facebook group or a call booking calendar. And I was like, oh my God, I never really thought about like getting more granular with my daily schedule. So even creating an SOP for yourself, just so that you can kind of get through things a little bit easier and find things you're not scrambling around, because also as entrepreneurs, we're always scrambling, looking at where's this link, where's that at? So anything that you can do for yourself. Even I use Asana for project management. I even have an Asana board called Executive, and on there I have all important links as well for my business, so that I can find any type of affiliate links that I want to grab and send to someone, or just any important things. It's all in one place.
So true. I love that. I love that idea, by the way. SOPs, for those that do not understand everything that you can do in regards to that, like take a course in it, connect with one of us. Quite honestly, we should probably do a little breakout session at some point in time and really show our audience and some of our clients ways that they can become more manageable, to actually be more intentional, to have actually these points of conversation. So I love that. And I just posted, just from both of you talking, working by yourself at home can feel like a deserted island, right? It lacks accountability unless you build partnerships with others that actually hold you accountable. And that can be coaches, as you just mentioned. It can be even just friendships and JV partnerships, people like ourselves, where you're just like, I think a few of us already have that kind of built in place, where you're like, hold me accountable. Please, like, ask me how things are going or how things are progressing, seeing how we can collaborate with one another to accomplish like a goal that holds you accountable. Because when you're just sitting there in this creative space, which we all are in, your mind wanders, right? And in many cases, you can blow off an entire day and no one, other than the results at the end of the week or the end of the month, no one really will know the difference. And so accountability partners are huge. I would say that in itself is probably one of the major things.
Definitely. I have a colleague where we Voxer pretty much almost every day, and it's just, hey, just to check in on each other. How are you feeling today? How are you doing? What are you working on? We also mastermind together bi-weekly, 3 of us, and that's where we kind of establish, okay, what are your struggles? What are you actually working on that you're not getting done? What are you going to do to make that happen? And then we kind of create like a little sheet for all of us, and we write that down, and then we share that, and then we go on for the next 2 weeks and try to make things happen.
I love
Yeah.
that.
And I think having people in your corner, like a lot of the times when you're at home, if you don't have that community, you're in an, like, not only are you only in your mind, or maybe you surround yourself with just people that are like cheering you on, and you're in like this echo chamber of the same information over and over and over again. It was really interesting. I had a really great, I seek these conversations. And I think that this is important too, because you want to be able to not only self-evaluate your business, but you want to be able to see your blind spots. And this week, it was really interesting. I had a 2-hour conversation with somebody that I met online. I wasn't there to sell him anything. I was just there to gain perspective because he has the opposite political view as me. He's lived in 20 different countries, and he's lived in Mexico. He's done business in China for 20 years. And I was like very interested in his political view. And I was also very interested in, the business that he did, and how, he was really excited that we were in Mexico. We had this like incredible 2-hour conversation that gave me so much perspective. Even though I didn't agree with everything he was saying, I was like, you have to put yourself in front of other people that don't, so you can start to see and communicate at a higher level, that you can start to see the blind spots that you may have, or like he just has a completely different life experience. He's 30 years ahead of me. And so why wouldn't you take the time, even if, and this is like what most people don't realize about social media, it is a massive resource to connect you with people that you would never, ever meet in real life, And so why not use it as a resource instead of sitting at home and be like, hi, I wonder what I should do, or what's next, or this, like reach out and start conversations with people that you find interesting, and hear their story. If you can learn from other people's stories, it's not so isolating being at home when you use social media as a community.
Oh, wow. That is so true. Yeah. And quite honestly, even with what we're doing right now, right? Like I always talk about other people's platforms.
Yeah.
It's not just a resource for you to just like, step aside and listen to something. I mean, engage, ask questions, get involved, ask other podcasts and shows if they are open to having you on as a guest. Like all of those things kind of shake up the day. They allow you to meet all kinds of interesting people, but mostly it's about that. Absolutely, like you said, the interaction and learning from others along the way. That will really help you when you feel like you're an island by yourself with very little resources. All these resources are sitting here at your fingertips. A lot of times you just have to ask.
I love, being with you guys. Christina, you speak about this pretty much every week as well, right? You guys inspire me, you uplift me, we share ideas, we share struggles sometimes, and it's just so supportive to be able to be around other people. And so like just even this segment, this hour every week, like just lights us up and takes us out of those feelings that we may be having from working from home, for example.
Yeah, and one of the things that you mentioned, Robert, is asking for help. Right. If it feels overwhelming, especially if you're somebody that's new in entrepreneurship and you're somebody that's starting a business from home and this is brand new, right? And maybe you're used to running the house. Maybe you're used to cooking and doing the laundry and cleaning and you haven't outsourced any of those things. And this is totally brand new to you. There's this like interesting starting point where everything kind of evolves and it's uncomfortable and it's awkward and it's like, how are we going to do this? I'm not getting anything done. When am I supposed to work? And it really can be frustrating moving through those things. But again, when you take your ego out of play and you have a little bit of humility and just say, look, I can't do this on my own. I need help with this. And one of the things that I will totally shout my husband out for, he's been absolutely incredible. When we first got together, we both worked really great jobs. It was a lot of fun. And then when we had our daughter, things changed a little bit. He was working till 2:30 in the morning at the pub that he was managing. And it was just out of control. He was just getting exhausted, getting sick all the time because none of us were getting sleep. Right. And we just said, this isn't working. Right. So what if I could take this business and turn it into this, and maybe you come home and like, we do this together. And like, there's not, I don't know. There's a lot of guys out there that would be like, yeah, no problem. Like that's, sure. And I'm going to tell you, we did go through challenging times where he said, like this being at home, like he went through like whatever stay-at-home mom would go through. He's like, this isn't enough. Like, this is crazy. I can't just make lunches every day and make dinners every day and do the laundry every day. Like I've got to do something else. And he was, working outside and developing properties and doing all these other things, but it didn't fulfill him. And so that piece, like the honesty in that piece, I think that asking for help when you need it, when you're not happy, using communication, you get to know your partner at a deeper level if you're willing to do the work, right? Because he could have easily said, Christina, I'm not happy, I'm out of here, right? Like that's what people do these
Most
days.
people do that, right?
Right?
Most people, that's why there's such a high divorce rate and everything else, right? Most people are
Absolutely.
willing to throw in the towel, all because they were so deep in their feelings when they never ever asked for change or help or whatever it may be, right?
Yes.
And so that's a huge tip. Just ask. I mean, that's relationship driven and in the workplace.
Well, and like when you say that, like, you know, when your partner comes and says to you, I'm not happy, like that's something for me and him that like that brings me to my knees. That means stop everything. Like that is like the red button, like stop everything. We need to talk. Like we need to figure this out. Why are you not happy? What is not being fulfilled? How can we move this forward? I would quit every business on the planet if it meant keeping him. And we would work through that together. Now, he would never ask me to do that because he knows me, right? And so it's just a matter of that communication and building that communication. People that make it and create empires together are those that grow together, those bigger conversations, those that, you know, really care enough to change, you know, their past and what you know they were raised in to, hey, we want to create this life, we want to be this role model for our kids. And not to say that we didn't have great role models. I mean, we got 4 sets of parents, we have 5 I don't know, we got lots of parents. Okay, so we have like all these different parents that we get all this different information, different life experiences from that we can pull from. But now we get to decide who we want to be. And that can be really challenging if you're not on the same page and somebody's not being honest about that. You have to do it together. If you're somebody that works from home, you can't have a partner or a spouse that's resenting you working from home. Right?
Right. That is so true. And you know what? Make your why bigger than just having more money. Right. When people start their business, I mean, we all of us deal with this as being coaches that help others. Most people, when you say, why do you want to work from home? Why are you transitioning from this to this? I mean, in many cases, people have this ideal, or they watch a YouTube video on, you know, the fact that, and I say this all the time, that every entrepreneur has a Lamborghini, right? I always make fun of the Lambo crews out there, but you know, those are the things that
get a Porsche, Robert.
Right. But those are the things that like intrigue people sometimes or draw them in, but make it bigger than that. Like, well, okay, then what does money mean to you? What does having more money mean to you? And at the end of the day, they'll be surprised to find that in almost every case, it's like having more time to do the things that we're talking about, having more time with my spouse, going on more vacations. Well, like whatever that may be, like that freedom, that piece of freedom, that's really what you want. And so if you work backwards from that, you'll find all different kinds of ways of getting there quicker than it just being money. If you chase money, it's a much longer journey. Collaboration, one of the last little things that I just want to kind of throw out there as well, but collaboration is key. You don't have to, we've been talking about this, asking for help. You don't have to immediately go into business and think I need to hire X, Y, Z, or all of these facets. Now, yes, a coach, again, I may be a little biased, I think that's extremely important. A coach or a mentor to help you through that process. Again, it's why I always say success leaves clues. And if you want to get somewhere, you're going to have to talk to some of the people that have actually been there and experienced that. So that's a big thing. But with all the other things, collaborate. When you collaborate or you barter services, oh my goodness, like bartering is one of the building JV partnerships is huge, right? If I need something from Star that I know that's a special skill set she has, or Christina or Tina, like I'm going to reach out to you first and see how we can collaborate. And if I can't afford all that service on the front end, maybe there's something that I can help you with as well. So those are really, I guess, beginning ways of being able to move the needle and actually building kind of a bigger business just around, you know, those collaborations.
And also those distractions. I love that you talked about the collaborations, but I'm going to shift gears a little bit.
Yeah, that's good.
Sometimes those distractions can be internal. And I know that, Robert,
Yes.
you can't just be about the money, but we do need money for survival. And sometimes our businesses will have those dips, or we might go through something that we didn't expect to happen. I know with my husband and I, we went through a period of time where it was like, you know, a little bit uncertainty with certain things happening in business. And he's an entrepreneur too. So one thing I love about all of us, our spouses are entrepreneurs. So it's easier for them to understand and easier to understand. But I find myself sometimes like, okay, if I'm in a situation like that, I could become very overwhelmed. He usually isn't. And there was one time where he was very overwhelmed. And what I had to do is regulate my nervous system. And I chose to say, okay, this is going to be okay. Everything is going to work out. And normally I'd be like freaking out and panicking. But it was very important for me to do that during that time, just to kind of sustain both of our like mental capacity and like whatever was happening in the household and move past that. Now, whatever that looks like for you may be different. In my case, I was just like, I know this is going to be okay, and I know he's going to make it happen, and he did.
I'm so happy that you brought it up, because that's where I was going to go with it, because
Yeah.
sometimes your distractions are internal. Sometimes the things that you're going through are an untrue story that you've been left with, right? Maybe it's a money block or a money mindset thing. I know that for many years, I used hard work as a badge of honor. I will outwork anybody and I don't care, right? But that took so much away from my family. I wasn't productive with my work. I was working on exhaustion because I wasn't sleeping properly. Wasn't taking care of myself, but I was like, I will show them. And I had my self-worth tied to my outcome, to my production, to my goal, to my success. And so me as a human, I didn't feel valuable if I wasn't working. And that was a story that I had to change so that I could actually start enjoying my life, so that I could start time blocking and spending very focused, intentional time on the things that I was working on. And then when I was done work, I'm also awesome. Like I'm also, I'm okay just the way that I am without working. I'm okay sitting on a beach or going camping. I don't have to be working. I don't have to show people how hard I work. And so that was just my story. There's many other stories that are running through people's lives. Sometimes you feel like you're not safe and you continue to operate that way. Sometimes when I do get sped up about things or have like my triggers, it's because I don't feel safe about something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not the conversation with a client. It's not the conversation with my husband or my daughter. I have to like take a step back, like you said, and self-regulate and be like, where is the root of this feeling, so that I can move through it and not feel like this for a long period of time? Because people that are successful, they're emotionally intelligent. They're people that move through quickly any sort of issue. They don't get upset about stuff, right? They're unoffendable. They continue to move forward in a way that that helps them evolve into being a new person, right? And so when you start to recognize these things about yourself, that's when you can actually start to do the work to heal it, so that you don't keep repeating the pattern or the habit, and you can start setting higher standards in those habits.
Wow, so true, so true. We are our own worst coach. I always say this because I'm not saying that we do not have the skill set to be able to help ourselves out of a rut or whatever it may be, or to have the ability to create, a stronger mindset. But when we're sitting there and you just can't figure things out, or you're beating yourself up, like you said, most of our distractions are internal. Both of you stated that. That is so true. So like collaborate, talk to others, ask for help, whatever it may be. I found an interesting thing a long time ago. When you're sitting there and you're stuck in this rut and you're trying to figure out like, what is my purpose? How do I do this? Go back to your clients, even, like have these conversations with the people that are actually paying you, in some cases, a great deal of money for your own advice. I find that I learn just as much from them as they're learning, from me. And so just that in itself is a collaboration, right? And it can become huge in your future partnerships. But ask them, like, how was I able to help you do this or achieve this? Do you remember that one time that you stated, you were only pulling in 2 clients a week and now you're pulling in 8? Like, what was the big obstacle that you were able to overcome because of that? Like, those points in themselves, I constantly learn from being able to help others.
Definitely.
I'm like, that was a bit of a mic drop.
But isn't it true though? I mean, don't you find the same exact thing? Yeah.
Seek evidence, right? I constantly seek evidence to be able to share with other people. It's like it's results based now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you do needs to be results based. It's not good enough to go out there and just talk It's not. You have to be able to show people's results. And as you move through that with clients, you can start to see some of those habits. Like, I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll see habits in clients and I'll be like, oh my God, I do that too. I actually remember going to a counselor once and I told her, like, I overwork. I don't know how to take it. Like, I don't know how to stop. And she's like, oh, I might not be the right person to have this conversation with because I love what I do and I overwork too. And I was like, I appreciate your honesty. Right. And so it's really learning to be honest with yourself, to work intentionally, and to be able to start enjoying the life that you create, right? Easy to just work around the clock and not take the time off and not, it is so easy to pick up that call after dinner if a client calls and you enjoy them, right? It's so easy to be at the beach on the weekend with your family and, like, maybe I'm speaking for myself, and like respond to text messages or respond to messages from your client. It's so easy to do those things. But the difference that you will feel in the connection with your family if you do not is astronomical, right? And you also start to live more intentionally and anxious about the future, what's happening next, or they're worrying because they're basing their life on the past. And so if you can learn to be present and solve problems in the present and maybe see, 3 steps ahead and look to create something that's going to help you in the future, or eliminate distractions, right? Like Robert was saying, you guys were saying, turn focus off, focus on, right, on the computer, or like turn your notifications off, or if you know that it's going to be a long phone call. I know the same. If I'm going to call my dad, it's probably going to be a little while, so I'm not going to pick up the phone and call him. If I only have an hour block, I'll call him later with Izzy, right? And I'll like make sure that they get to connect, and it'll be great. But it really is, you have to be self-accountable. You have to be somebody that evaluates your day and gets better and better and better. And you have to be responsible in cutting out your own personal distractions and figuring out what those are, because they are very unique to us.
And there are tools for that too. Robert, you definitely mentioned one for the iPhone and Mac users. We both use it. But there's Facebook Eradicator. That's a free tool you can download from the Google App Store to turn on. That'll turn off the feed for Facebook. You just have to remember to turn it off. Otherwise, you'll think you're locked out of Facebook. And there's also another tool, and I can't think of the name of it right now, but you could probably Google it, where you can go into these co-working sessions. And they have a free plan, and I think the monthly plan is only like $6 a month, where you can have unlimited sessions. So you go into these co-working sessions, and you'll go in with someone, and you'll set the intention of, like, what it is that you want to work on during that 30-minute, I think it's a 30-minute or an hour block. And you just work. You don't talk to them. They don't talk to you. You just get your work done. So for you, if you're feeling distracted and you're not getting stuff done, schedule time in on your calendar and go into one of those co-working sessions, or you can also co-work with your peers. You can also offer co-working sessions to your clients and use that time to get your work done as well.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, I love even the live, like you're stating, those interactions where you're actually sitting there, even if it's in silence. It's like, okay, let's fill out this next point. Let's talk about this next spreadsheet and start filling yours out. And would you like to share? I mean, that interaction, I love being able to do that as well. By the way, I just took a little note here that it seems like time management is such an important thing that we need to get a sponsorship with a time management software system. So
yes, we do.
No, but anyways, so if Apple, if you're listening, we love your focus tool. We'd like to have you talk to us a little bit more about that. But since we've only got like 4 minutes left, we've talked a lot about just that common thread, like the distractions of working from home. With all of these things, right? Because these have been some like major hurdles and struggles and a lot of negative space of things that we've had to overcome, and we're still working on it. So why do we do it? Like if it's this hard, let's end with, on a positive note, why is it worth everything that we're talking about? Why is it worth working from home, feeling like you're on an island by yourself, that you don't have the ability to collaborate or to interact with people? Why is it worth it?
I have more time, freedom, and flexibility than I would ever have on the job, period. And I'm not going back to the workforce.
Love it. I love it.
I never want to have to ask anybody to go to the bathroom. Like, I never want to have to ask permission to take a vacation. I never want to ask permission on, hey, I've got a really great idea. Can we run with this? No, I'm going to run with that great idea. Right?
That is so true. And like in the corporate environment, and one of my niches was actually helping executives that are transitioning, like based on their skill set, into the coaching world. Like that's been one of my big things over the last couple of years. So I'm working with those people that are like, hey, I want to figure out how to take this skill set and actually go into business for myself. And just one of the things in itself. And by the way, I'm not belittling by any means those that are in the corporate world that have a job that they love, because there's some really good ones out there, right?
Yes.
I know Kelly even loves her job. However, the majority, right? The majority essentially have sold their time for a paycheck, and they're still not happy with the results, right? Of that interaction or that exchange. And so it feels a little bit like prison, right? You're kind of like, you're checking in, you're checking out, like you just said, having to ask when you can go to the bathroom or go to lunch or whatever it may be. Or my kids have like this program in the middle of the day, and I just want to be able to step out and go to this program, or to go to the dentist, or whatever it may be in your schedule. I love that freedom. There are days, by no means is this all easy. To be successful, there are days that I have worked 15, 16, 17, 18 hours, not kidding, to be able to launch something. I've even worked through the night into the next morning to be able to launch something. However, there are also days that I take 2 weeks and I travel, the Mediterranean, or I travel Europe. There's times that I'm able to say, you know what, we're just going to go to the beach for the next few days. And if I have to interact or take a couple client calls, I will. But that in itself is worth all of these struggles that we talked about, in my opinion. And it's just a matter of kind of navigating through those things, being able to have that freedom in that space. And the other thing is, if any one of you want to talk about this, even at the best job you've ever had, would you have made the income that you're making currently?
No.
Absolutely not.
Because there was a ceiling, right? There was a job description that was based on, your time, 40, 50 hours a week, whatever it may be, was worth this much to do this function. And then the ceiling kind of, just hit the ceiling. That was it. I love the fact that we can kind of own it, and we can have the ability to make as much or as little as we want. There's some entrepreneurs I know that are extremely happy making $40,000, $50,000 a year, but they also work like 15 hours a week. It's crazy, right? And they just love enjoying time doing other things. And then there's others that make an absurd amount of money based on that. When I used to think in the corporate world that my $50 or $60 an hour job was like amazing, it was, right? I was grateful for that job. But how does 400, 500, 600, how does $1,000 an hour sound? I mean, this is an opportunity that no corporate job will give you.
Yeah. You write your own paycheck. There's no, other than dealing drugs, I don't know another job out there.
By the way, that's a whole nother segment. If you're interested in that, we are looking for.
That is not what we do from home. Okay. That is not what we do from home. But there's no other, I want to be responsible, right? I want to be the responsible person for my paycheck. I don't want to have to ask anybody permission. So many people out there are struggling, and they're leaving money on the table. They could be making so much more money because somebody's told them they're not worth it. And that actually really bothers me, that you've got somebody else telling me that what your worth is. When you get to decide that, you get to build the skills, you get to be of value and of service to other people. And so this is where there's no rules. I like no rules. I live in Mexico, right? Like no, I don't run drugs. Okay. But it's
all coming together, Christina. It's all coming together.
Off the internet right now. But my point is that I don't like following the rules. I don't like sitting at a schedule. I like having control. I like having freedom. However that looks to anybody, you deserve that. You can have that. You just have to choose that. And is it easy? Absolutely not. But life is hard. So you decide, what hard do you want to pick? This is the hard we pick.
Right. That's so true. That's so true. Those that are actually migrating from the corporate world into this space, they always talk about two things that they're losing. The biggest struggle they have to get over is they had predictability and they had stability. Whatever form that is, that's what they had in the corporate world. It's predictable. It's stability. That paycheck comes based on your, just you performing some functions every single week. This space does not have that. But I love what you said, Christina, is like the fact that you have the ability to own it, right? You can adjust and pivot along the way. It can be as much or as little, depending on, what it is that you're trying to achieve. But those are the biggest things. And for me, that journey is so worth it. I mean, if somebody said to you today, I'm only going to pay you $20,000 for the next 3 years, but after that, you'll make $1 million a year. Would it be worth that? For many
Yep.
people, I mean, it still might not be, right? Because they want
Numbers.
stability,
It's a numbers
they
game.
want predictability. But for most of us that can do math, heck yeah, that would be worth it. So it's worth sometimes that journey of learning.
But that predictability is not real. Like, you know what I mean?
You can be gone tomorrow. You're sold based on
exactly. You could lose your job tomorrow. No, like look at all these people that got jobs with Meta and Netflix and Google, and they're like, yes, I'm working for a multi-billion-dollar company.
Right.
And
Right.
they just got, there was hundreds of thousands of people that just got laid off. You are in control, right? Like there
So
are no sure things. It's all a risk.
Mhm.
So what are you willing to risk? What are you willing to do? Do you want to live in alignment and with purpose and be totally fulfilled in your life? Not that you can't do that in a job, right? Like I, you know, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law are VPs of their company. Like they crush the corporate world and they're going to retire by 55 and like they're doing well, right? There are multiple different ways to create wealth. So let me say that, like it'd be point blank. But entrepreneurship is just it's a fun ride, and nobody can take from you what you build, and nobody
that's
can take
it.
from
Yeah.
you.
I think you nailed it. Fulfillment and happiness, no matter what position you're in. That in itself can lead to just about everything in life, right? Any last points before we sign off? I know we went a little over today, but we could talk forever in regards to this. I actually like this topic because it's one of the number one things that really allows either people to thrive or dive, right? And they're struggling and looking for help and trying to figure this whole thing out. How to work from home, how to be an island, be on an island by yourself. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I just think that if you're an entrepreneur, I'm sorry, if you're still working in corporate and you want to actually become a full-time entrepreneur, and Robert, you talked about that, not having that predictability of income and that sort of thing, create an exit strategy. Claim that you want to actually be an entrepreneur and start working towards that over the course of a year or two so that you can walk away. I told you I left my job. I was still working for a whole year while I was building out my business, and I knew I was leaving. So then I had that date in mind.
Yes. And then it was scalable, right? You knew exactly what your metrics and results were, and you knew you could scale at that point.
Yeah.
Love that.
I love it. No, I think this was an excellent conversation. Thank you so much for having it. Like I said, look forward to seeing you again next week. I love you guys.
Absolutely. Let's go out here. Let's try this one more time. I know we don't have Tina here. Let's do our little outro.